Okay, so a while ago I did the strongest to weakest Hokages in Naruto. This was before we had a couple of extra additions to the roster. I believe it was missing Kakashi and Naruto. This was up until the war. So I wanted to remake this list, revisit it, kind of, go into the Boruto era. That way we have Naruto included as a Hokage and talk about from weakest to strongest. So without further ado, I think let's move on, because I'm also talking about not just raw strength. I'm talking about as a Hokage in general. Like when a war goes down, which Hokage is the weakest one and the one that you don't really want to be on the battlefield, or is the least out of the Hokage that you want on the battlefield, and somebody that you really, really want next to you to handle shit. So for starters, at the bottom of the list is definitely Tsunade, simply because we've seen her act as, Hokage, and it's not to necessarily dismiss her completely, because Tsunade, she has the strength, right? Raw strength, Tsunade, she punches somebody, they're knocked out, but there's more to being a strong individual than raw strength. There's speed, there's technique, there's strategy, your brains, and all of that stuff. And while Tsunade has a bit of all of it, right? Because Tsunade, at the end of the day, if you think about it, she's one of the legendary Sanin, right? A lot of people give her crap for it, but she put in her work back in the day and got a title that only 3 people in the Naruto-verse, Boruto-verse have. The Sanin, the legendary Sanin, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. Obviously, Jiraiya passed away. Oh, why I had to think about that? Fuck, man, that just ruined my whole night right now. But yeah, Tsunade at the bottom, simply because we've seen, again, even in the Pain Invasion, it was Naruto that was out on the battlefield, a 16-year-old, and she was kind of on the sidelines. Yeah, she probably could have thrown down a bit, but let's be honest, Pain would have taken out Tsunade if it was one-on-one, and that's probably debatable, but I would argue 100% Pain would have taken her out. So Tsunade, next up, a little bit above her, but still a little in the midst of towards the bottom, Kakashi, simply because Kakashi, one, we haven't really seen much of Kakashi in action as Hokage, but I will say experience, strategy, everything he's been through a lot more, I would argue, than Tsunade. Tsunade did see some things in her back in the day, the Third Great Shinobi War and all that stuff. She's seen some things, but look what Kakashi went through. He lost everyone that he ever cared about. You know what I'm saying? He lost a lot of people. He's been through a lot of crazy things. He was a prodigy, I think he was already an Anbu Black Op at like 5 or some crazy thing. So he was putting in his work from childhood. So I gotta give Kakashi one big prop that he has the experience, and again, strategy wise, you want Kakashi. He's like the Piccolo of Naruto when it comes to strategy. Oh, here we go. Don't compare Piccolo and him. How dare you? They're 2 different. Oh, God, please stop. So, yeah, Kakashi, we haven't seen him that much in action, but from what we've seen, yeah, and then again, you got to compare, well, Kakashi, which Kakashi we're talking about. I guess we got to talk about up to date, right? Kakashi doesn't have the eyes anymore. Now, if we was throwing in Mangekyo Kakashi, I'll probably bump him up on this list quite a few spots, but at the moment where we're at, latest chapters, latest episodes, or towards the end of even the original Naruto, he didn't even have Sharingan anymore. He had 2 regular eyes, so it also makes you question how much of those abilities that he copied over the years could he still replicate, considering he don't have the eyes anymore that he used to. Did he remember them? I don't know, but that's why Kakashi is there. He still, for the most part, is a decent, and honestly, they're all Hokage for a reason, so they're all incredible individuals, but Kakashi, that's where I see him at, right there. Next one up is a shinobi that is absolutely legendary, down in infamy, Minato, the 4th Hokage. Now, when he came back and he was in the war, we got to see, for the most part, some incredible feats. He did his thing. In comparison to the previous 2 that I mentioned, I think Minato runs circles around all of them. He runs circles around Kakashi. He runs circles around Tsunade. He was that dude. And even in the beginning of Naruto, he was, kind of built up the myth, the legend, the 4th Hokage. In fact, I remember even Sarutobi made this comment, which is what kind of makes this list a little bit more difficult, because things were retconned and changed up. I remember in the beginning of Naruto, when Orochimaru invaded, the 3rd Hokage was like, I don't really care. Like, I care, but I don't care as much about the 1st and 2nd, just the 4th. The 4th can't come back. And it was like, yo, so he must be stronger than all of them. Then we see in the war, it was a whole different ball game. Hashirama, even Tobirama, even to a certain degree Sarutobi, they were like on another level, but especially the 1st and 2nd, totally different than where they were initially shown. And it was like, yeah, they're weakened down a bit, but still, they're not as strong as what we later see them be in the war. So, in regards to that, with Minato, is like, yeah, he should have been. In the beginning of the series, he was hyped that way. Later on, it was revealed he wasn't as hyped as Kishimoto probably originally planned. And what I mean by that is not hyped like he did some things, you know what I'm saying? He was fighting without arms, for crying out loud. But in comparison to the first, the second, and the third, this is where the list gets a little tricky, because next up is the third Hokage, Sarutobi. He's up on top of Minato. Some people would argue differently. Some people would swap them. I definitely got to say, well, for starters, the third at one point had the title of, like, what was it, strongest or most legendary shinobi or something like that. He had a very big title to begin with. On top of that, all of his experience that he had, you know, the monkey and stuff like that, it was crazy. And if you compare everything that was done in the war, yeah, Minato did his thing, but the third, for being really, really old at that point, you know, in the Edo Tensei or whatever, he was still keeping up. Imagine him at his prime. So it's kind of interesting, and I guess that's where it's like, okay, do you talk about his prime or whatever, because he's already dead? A lot of interesting things there, but for me personally, I would definitely still put the third over the fourth, just because I had a lot of respect for the third from the jump, the title that he had, what he was, what he represented, the experience. And Minato, as awesome a shinobi as he was, he did have an early death. Sarutobi lasted a long time, and yeah, some things happened during his watch in the village, but he tried his best and always had his best foot forward and a pure heart too. So that's something that goes into everything strength-wise. And on the battlefield, Sarutobi, I'm gonna be sitting back and like, yes, master, what do I do? With Minato, I'm gonna be a little bit like, yo, he let some people down in the past. Well, don't let me down, bro. Nah, I shouldn't do that, man. Minato, you had a sad end, bro. I cried when you, yeah. Next up, Tobirama. Honestly, it was again, and these slots right here can all be interchangeable by anybody. This is just my personal list of where I see things. I put Tobirama above the other two because in the war, he was shown to be on some next level. Granted, his brother, which obviously is on a higher spot, if I haven't mentioned him yet, but, you know, his brother was great, but Tobirama, he did some things. Like, he was about to evaporate Sasuke in a heartbeat, and Madara knew he had to put Tobirama down, which Madara knew for a couple different reason. One, Tobirama, he shows a little bit of a bigotry towards the Uchiha, but on top of that, Tobirama was the shit. And again, I'm basing a lot of this off of the feats that I seen in the war. Tobirama was that dude. It was only Hashirama that could get Tobirama to stop from just splattering Sasuke across the pavement right there when they were first shown that, like, yo, he's not all there right now. So that's why I put Tobirama there. On top of that, the things that he's done in the past, the wars, we never really got clear indication on exactly how he, you know, passed on. We know that he was killed. I want to say it was against the Ginkaku and Kinkaku brothers, but we didn't get to fully see how he died exactly. So yeah, that's where I put him. I think he was an amazing shinobi, strategy, all of that. In fact, a lot of the things that the fourth did, he originated. On top of that, he created Edo Tensei. Like, the dude was a genius, and that's why Tobirama's there. And then, of course, the number 1 and 2 slots, it was difficult because we've seen what Hashirama was. He was a god. I mean, everything he did, the big statue, the tree, all of what Hashirama was capable of. In fact, they even used his DNA so many times. It was like if he was just a god. But with Naruto, as far as having him on the battlefield, again, where do you put him? Like, I want to say, on one hand, I want to put Hashirama on top just because of the strategy, experience, and all the incredible jutsu he has, and he's a smart guy in comparison. Naruto, this is way lower than Hashirama. I'd even argue Hokage Naruto is still not on point as a Hashirama, so I'd give Hashirama that. But in terms of being a strong shinobi, we know that by the end of the series, Naruto was the strongest. On top of that, Naruto's going to make sure nobody dies. The people from the older generation, you always got to look at them a little closely. Like, Hashirama wouldn't want anyone to die. Naruto will make sure no one dies, and that's the difference. And that's why my list would be Naruto at number 1 and Hashirama number 2. But it's a really tough one because Hashirama is an incredible shinobi that, you know, the first Hokage, and he's still the strongest, or one of the strongest, and his jutsu was incredible. Granted, it was a incredible rewrite from what we first seen him, but he did his thing. So that's my list. Again, one more time, Tsunade at the bottom, then Minato, then the third Hokage, then Tobirama, then Hashirama, and then Naruto at the top. I hope I said that right. Somewhere Kakashi's in there. I hope I said him. But anyway, yeah, you watched the video, you know the list. Kind of curious what you guys think. Where would you rank the Hokage from strongest to weakest, or vice versa? Who do you think had the most impact? Who would you want? If you was going to war against Madara right now, you could only have one of the Hokage, who would it be? I gotta roll with Naruto, but it would be Hashirama in a heartbeat if I can't get Naruto. You know what I'm saying? That's right there, because he was a legend, dog. He was an amazing guy, and in the war, it showed very heavily. And by the way, anybody that says, why didn't you include Danzo? Fuck Danzo, that's why. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and stalk my Facebook to get more when the video ends. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule. Anime and manga for life, boy. Bow. Have an awesome day.